think outside the box. And, there are no real rules. There's a good starting point maybe, but the rules are meant to be broken. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Grow Photography. In this second video of my Lessons in Photography series, we're going to be looking back at 20th century master photographer, Edward Steichen. Edward Steichen was born in 1879 and died in 1973, and is considered by many to be one of the most important and influential photographers of the 20th century. In 1922, Edward Steichen became chief photographer for Condé Nast Publications, and so was responsible for most of the most iconic images that took place for both Vogue and Vanity Fair in the early part of the 20th century. Steichen would not commit to any one identity or specialization in photography art. Throughout his lengthy career that spanned over 70 years, he would seamlessly jump between multiple genres, from fashion to portraiture to flowers and still lifes, landscapes and nudes. I think that's an important lesson for us as photographers or as artists, or even as human beings. I think keeping it interesting and, not being trapped into any one specific way of making photographs, but, whatever sparks your interest. And you'd be amazed at, trying out something that's completely outside of your area of expertise or your area of knowledge. If you're a portrait photographer, try shooting landscapes for a month or two and learn all there is to learn about shooting landscapes. If you're typically a daytime photographer, shoot at night and shoot under artificial light. If you shoot normally with natural light, well, try using strobes, try using the studio versus the outdoors. So it's just being excited and being interested in the world is what Steichen always showed us. Flowers are a constant motif in his photographs. There was a moment in his early life where he wasn't sure whether he wanted to devote himself to photography or to horticulture. That's how much he loved that. And by looking through this book here, you'll really notice how not only does he have some amazing dramatic images of flowers and plants, but he was able to bring that as well into his fashion work. There's another lesson I'd like to put forward that I discovered through studying some of Steichen's work, is that he was able to take those two loves and merge them together. And as you can see here, here's a prime example of how he was able to make it a part of his portraiture. Huge fan of Steichen's portraits. What really comes to mind is when I look at this image of Winston Churchill here, it brings to mind that great portrait that Josef Karsh did of Winston Churchill. And I'm sure that Karsh took a few tips and secrets and lessons from Steichen when he was building his craft. Beautiful images. To read to you now 3 quotes taken from the book here. Important quotes because I think they really speak to who this photographer was and what he stood for. And we can pull a lot of lessons from these statements here. These were taken from his private notes. Look at the subject. Think about it before photographing. Look until it becomes alive and looks back at you. We're really a society of instant gratification. And thinking about, what it really takes to become great at your craft. It really is about having intentionality and being contemplative about what you do. And it shows here that Edward Steichen really cared about spending time with the subject. I think that's an important lesson. If you want to make great photographs, you really got to get to know your subject, whether it be a portrait and getting to know that person. If it's a landscape, spending time out in outdoors and really getting to know. We think about Ansel Adams and how he spent years and years in Yosemite, getting to know the mountains and so on. And I think that's what Edward Steichen is talking about here with that quote. A good photographer not only builds his own concepts, but out of the style he has created in the process, he also builds or creates receptivity of the audience for his work. The audience may have become so belligerently appreciative of his work as to become bigoted and seek to crucify the next generation with the ideas or ideals of their hero. That's funny and interesting. But I think he speaks to the point that, it's not enough to just create your work, but then create the work that really says something about who you are, is really your best work. And then you have to find a way to engage audiences with that work. To not only produce the work, but then actually to put it out there and sell the work, sell the idea of your work. To photograph what has never been photographed before does not in itself denote originality. It has no more creative meaning than finding a pearl in an oyster. What is originality? Is originality the choice of original subject matter or something that has never been photographed before? Or does it have more to do with the way you photograph a subject? I think if you can get within yourself, learn about those things that you like and dislike, and start to weed out what is not you and what doesn't represent you, and slowly you'll see that you'll start to bring together all those aspects that are really important to you and those things you really like, and that's how you build some originality in your artwork and in your photography. This book by Edward Steichen, Lives in Photography, is another great book that I feel real privileged to have studied, looked at, read, or just reviewed the photographs whenever I felt I wanted to get inspired. I encourage you to go out, seek it out in your local bookstore or online. It's a fantastic book, and I really think you'll get lots out of it. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you again.